These are 4 questions about useless organs, as evolutionists refer to them, that we may ask them because the answer to the questions will show that evolution has not really taken place. Number 1, if evolution were true, simple organs, which may no longer function as they used to, should have developed into complex organs. How is it then that these useless organs did not develop advanced features and functions? Do you have any question about the difference between simple organs and complex organs?
Yes, yes, sir. Can highlight a difference for me, please?
Okay, maybe I can use an illustration. When the Wright brothers in Ohio invented the aeroplane, I think it was about 1914. It was a simple aeroplane. It did not have the kind of engine and the kind of wings that modern aircraft have. There have been developments in the aircraft industry. So now we have much more powerful engines. The plane can fly higher, and it can fly faster. It will take less time to reach one's destination with modern aircraft than with the Wright brothers' simple aircraft that they invented. Now, evolution is based on the principle that in the development of life, there is a movement from simple one-celled organisms to organisms or living things that have many different cells specialized for different functions in their systems. And yet at the same time, they say that in the development of living things, there are certain organs that remain simple and were discarded. They lost their function, they lost their use, and so they're no longer used today. But if this were really what they were dealing with, that there is a development and advancement of that which is simple to that which is advanced, there should not be any simple organs left in the body. All these simple organs should have developed more features and made them more efficient in their work. Just like in the aircraft industry, they have made the engine far more powerful. The airplane can fly faster, it can fly higher. It can accommodate a lot of luggage. It is air conditioned. And so we find there has been a development, but if evolution were true, you shouldn't have simple organs that have no more function. And so the idea of simple organs not having any function does not prove evolution actually happened. Another question to ask these evolutionists is, if evolution were true, how is it that new DNA information did not change the simple organs into new and complex organs? You see, it is the DNA in the cells that have the coded information for what the living creature is going to look like. And in order to develop advanced organs, evolutionary scientists would require that new information be added to the DNA. And if this happened, why do we have simple organs in the body that they say have no use or no function? Why didn't they develop as evolution would have predicted into new and complex organs? Number 3, we may ask evolutionists this question. If evolution were true, how is it that there was no new information added to the DNA, but instead there was a loss of information? This is a key point. There was a loss of information that caused the organ not to be able to be used in a way that it used to function. So the loss of information, the deletion of information, results in the loss of function of a particular organ. That's not the direction evolution should be going. There should be a gain of information, not a loss of information. The 4th question to ask evolutionists concerning useless organs that they claim are in the body, and which proves they say that evolution has taken place, is just because scientists may not know of a function of a, quote, useless organ, end of quote. Does this mean that in the future, they may not find that this useless organ, in fact, had a use all along? Okay, I'm going to be changing the screen. Good. Now let us look at examples of creatures that have certain organs that scientists say are useless organs. Number 1, wings on birds that cannot fly. So the ostrich and the penguin are 2 kinds of birds, and they both have wings, but these wings do not result in these birds flying like other birds fly. This does not prove evolution, for there has been a loss of function, not an increase in function, which would have been expected if evolution were really happening. In other words, the direction that this is going is opposite to the direction that evolution says it should go. If evolution were happening, then just like you have in the aircraft industry, in which the airplanes are larger, they're more powerful, they can fly faster, they can fly higher, then these birds should be able to be improved in their ability to fly, not lose their ability to fly. That's not evolution. When you have a loss of information resulting in a loss of function of a particular organ, that is not evolution according to the definition. So this does not prove evolution, but there has been a loss of function, not an increase in function. Yes.
All right. For the sake of the argument,
Yeah.
I suppose I tell an evolutionist that, and their answer to me is, it is obvious that everything stops evolving after a time. Like the Earth stops increasing in size because it has reached its maximum of evolutionary size. And so humans stop developing because they have reached their peak of evolution size or operation. So what they will say to me is that this doesn't prove that evolution doesn't exist. It maybe just proves that evolution has a limit. How would I answer that?
Okay, that's a good question. Thanks for asking. Evolutionists actually do not believe that there is a point at which evolution stops. There is a movement among evolutionists called Transhumanism, in which they believe that the human being is going to develop beyond the point of being human, to having capabilities like they have greater memories, or they have greater power to do things that they could not do before. So they believe that one day humans are going to go beyond the stage of human being. I think where they're moving with this is that they think that human beings will be like the one that we call God, which is what Satan wanted in the first place. Satan wanted to be like God. He wanted to sit in the place where God sits. And he told Adam and Eve, if you eat of the fruit that God has forbidden you to eat, you will be like God. So we find that transhumanism, Trans, trans meaning moving across from one section to the other, and humanism meaning the state of being human. They believe that evolution is carrying human beings beyond the point of being human. So I do not know of them saying that there is a point in time when the evolution of different living things will stop. Evolution has only one direction in theory, and that is upward advancement. And there is no lid, there is no ceiling, there is no stopping in the upward movement and advancement of living things. Okay, so that is what I know evolutionists are teaching, transhumanism. Okay, so here is the case concerning wings and birds that cannot fly. There has been no new information added to the DNA to increase the capability of the wings. However, it would be incorrect that the wings have absolutely no use. The wings may be used for balance while running. The wings may be used in cooling the bird in hot weather. When they flap their wings, they cause the air to circulate under the wings and throughout the body to cool it down. The wings help in protection of the rib cage in case the bird falls. The wings are used in mating rituals. The wings are also used to scare animals that would like to destroy the bird and to eat the bird. And the wings are also used to shelter young ones. So even though some birds have lost the ability to fly, the wings have some uses other than flying, in the case of both the ostrich and the penguin. If the wings are useless completely, why are the muscles functional, allowing these birds to move their wings up and down, forward and backward? Let us look at another argument concerning useless organs. The human appendix was once thought to be useless, but it is now known to help to control bacteria entering the intestines. You have two types of bacteria. You have helpful bacteria, which is not what this is speaking about, which aids in the digestion or the breaking down of food that is eaten. But you also have harmful bacteria. And this is what is commonly called germs. Harmful bacteria that causes us to get sick. And what the appendix does is to control such bacteria that try to enter the intestines. So it does have a function like the immune system. It does regulate the amount of bacteria trying to enter the intestines. Another part of the body that was once thought to be useless are the human tonsils. But it is now known to help to fight throat infections. So these different parts of living creatures are not really useless, having no function, having no purpose. Even if the birds, the ostrich and the penguin, are not able to use their wings to fly as other birds, they have a whole lot more uses that they put their wings to. And the human appendix and the human tonsils are now known to have use. Now, what this shows about science is that science is not something that is definitive. And by definitive, I mean that it has drawn a final conclusion on a certain subject area. When new information is discovered, sometimes there is a need to change one's theory, to revise it, maybe to discard the theory altogether as being invalid. But the word of God, which comes from God who knows everything, Psalm 147 verse 5 says that his understanding is infinite. That is, there is no end, there is no exhaustion, there is no finishing of what he knows. God knows everything. And therefore, when he says something in the Bible, it is not tentative like science is, but it is definitive. So science is tentative information, which is subject to change when new information becomes available. But God's word is definitive because it is based on God who knows everything about what he has created. Now, let us consider why it is that some creatures have lost some function in parts of their body. Not that there is a complete loss of function, but obviously in ostriches and penguins, they cannot fly like other birds. So here is a biblical explanation for the loss of function in some living creatures. Number one, when God made his creation, he saw that it was very good. Genesis chapter 1, verse 31. I'd like one of you to find Genesis chapter 1, verse 31, and to read it for us. Anyone?
Genesis
Chapter 1, verse 31.
Genesis chapter 1,
Yes,
verse 31.
yes.
And God saw everything that he had made, and it was very good. So the evening and the morning were the sixth day.
All right. Now, do you think that God's opinion of his creation, that it was very good, means that God was completely satisfied with what he had created? Notice that he didn't just say it was good. He said
Yes.
it was very good.
Yes.
Now, it is not that God is expressing a human point of view. God is not a man. He's not a human being. His knowledge is far greater than any of the creations that he has made. So when he says that something is very good, it must be completely and thoroughly good. And very good implies that all the body parts, all the organs, whether they are outside organs or inside of the body, that they were in optimal peak performing function, that there were no parts of the body that had lost some amount of function at that time. So when God made everything, there was no such thing as any absolutely useless organ having no function at all. And there was no useless organ that had some function, but some other function had gone. It was very good. So everything was functioning at its peak performance. So what happened to change this? And this is what the evolutionists cannot tell you, because they don't believe that there is a God, and they don't believe that God created anything. They believe that everything came into being by natural and accidental processes. So we can understand from an evolutionary perspective that you won't have at any time in the history of the universe something that is very good. If it is accidental, if it is done by chance, and it is not intentionally done by a super intelligent being, you're going to find flaws. But from a biblical point of view, we start out with the creation being very good. Everything was functioning well. What happened then to change this? Look at number 2. When sin entered into the world, it not only affected human beings, but it affected all of nature. I repeat, when sin entered into the world, it not only affected human beings, but it affected all of nature. Before sin, humans and animals ate plants and fruits, but no meat. Let us hear Genesis chapter 1, verses 29 and 30. Anyone who would like to read it? Brother Golding, would you like to read that? Okay, I'll go. Yes, go ahead, Brother Golding.
Repeat, sir.
Yes, Genesis chapter 1, verses 29 and 30.
29, Genesis chapter verse 29.
And
God,
verse 30. Both 29 and 30.
29 to 30.
Yes.
And God said, see, I have given you every herb that its seeds, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit its seed, to you it shall be for food. Also, every beast of the earth, every bird of the air, and everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life, I have given every green herb for food. And it was so.
Okay, now, do you see any provision made for human beings to eat animals at this point in history?
If I've seen any
Do,
food ones,
yeah, do you see anything in the scripture here that says that human beings in the beginning were to eat both vegetables, fruits, and some animals?
no.
No, it was a diet of plants and fruits from the trees. And the same thing is true with the animals. God says, I have given every green herb or green plant for food. So that was the case. Before sin, humans and animals ate plants and fruits, but no meat. After sin entered, animals started to eat one another. There was also a deterioration in the bodies of humans and animals, which led to diseases and death. Let us look at Genesis chapter 3, verses 14 through 19. I'm going to ask Brother McIntosh to find that for us. And Brother Golding, if you can find in the meantime, Romans chapter 8, verses 18 through 22. So let us look at Genesis chapter 3, verses 14 through 19. And this is what God said after sin had been committed by Adam and Eve. Brother McIntosh? You have to unmute your mic. I can't hear you.
Connectivity issues, whatever. And what did you say earlier?
Yes, if you can read for us Genesis chapter 3, verses 14 through 19.
Genesis
Golding, yeah, verses 14 through 19. And Brother Golding will read Romans chapter 8, verses 18 through 22.
So the Lord said to the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed more than all the cattle and every beast of the field. On your belly you shall go, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. To the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. And to Adam he said, because you have heeded the voice of your wife and eaten from the tree which I commanded you of you, saying, you shall not eat of it. Cursed be the ground for your sake. In toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you, and you shall eat a herb of the field. In sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken, for dust you are, and to dust you shall return.
Okay, so here we find that there would be no pain and sorrow, that Adam would have to work hard to produce food for his family, and that the farmland would easily produce thorns and thistles that have no use for food. And yet Adam would have to sweat it out in the field to get food from the ground. And that eventually he would die and his body would return to the dust. That is what sin caused. Let us now look at Romans chapter 8, verses 18 through 22. Brother Golding, your time.
Romans chapter 8, verse 22.
Verses 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. So verses 18 right through to verse 22.
Okay. For I consider that the sufferings of this person,
This present time,
present time, are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. For the earnest expectation of the creation eagerly waits for the revealing of sons of God, for the creation was subjected to fertility,
futility,
hostility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it in hope. Because the creation itself also will be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation groans and labors with birth aches together until now.
Notice that last verse. It says, we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. So that was caused by sin. Sin not only affected Adam and Eve and their descendants, but has affected the whole of creation. So animals die, humans die, and there is a deterioration in the bodies of humans and animals. Now, in this context, mutations or accidental copying errors in the genes resulted in the loss of information in the genes, leading to the loss of original function in the wings of some birds, but did not leave their wings entirely without function. This is not new information in the genes which brought this change, but a loss of information as a result of accidental copying errors in the genes. Number 4, also epigenetics. Epi is a Greek word that means upon or over, and genetics has to do with the coded information that is regulated by being turned on or off, responding to changes in the environment. So epigenetics is that part of the study of genetics in which it regulates the genes in turning on or turning off genes at different times. So epigenetics turned off some genes and turned on other genes in the DNA in response to the environment, leading, for example, to some fish which have no eyes because they swim in deep, dark waters, and to prevent their eyes from getting damaged, or to some beetles losing their wings to help them to prevent them from being blown away on a windy island. However, this is not evolution, since there has been no new information added to the genes of the DNA, but some information has been turned off and other information already there has been turned on. So when we look at the subject of so-called useless organs, we must keep in mind it wasn't always like this. God created a very good creation. What happened is sin entered into the world, and it caused a deterioration in living creatures. We also need to understand that the changes that take place in living creatures is not an upward change, advancing the creature to a higher level. What is happening is a deletion of information as a result of accidental copying errors that take place in the genes. And this is called mutation. And so this results in a loss of information, and that in turn results in a loss of some function in that living creature. Also, you have changes in the body that happens as a result of the regulatory mechanism that regulates when some genes should be turned off, since it would be disastrous to keep those genes functioning, and to turn on other genes so that the organism can better survive in the new environment that they're in. So the changes do happen, but it is in response to the environment. And so the loss of function does not mean that there has been evidence for evolution. Evolution is supposed to go in the direction of advancement. And that is the development of the body parts so that they can function even better. Instead, what we have is that they're going in the opposite direction. They're losing function of different parts of the body for the purpose of helping them to survive in a new environment. But this is not proof that evolution has taken place in the sense of molecules to man evolution. That is, in the sense of the development of living organisms from one cell to many different cells, from the fish to the philosopher. We don't have that taking place. We have small changes taking place, responding to the environment and responding to mutation in the genes, accidental copying errors, but not the kind of change that results in organisms getting more advanced and changing from one kind of creature to a different kind of creature. And so we don't have proof for evolution either in the accidental copying errors in the genes or in the regulatory mechanism that turns off some genes and turns on other genes in response to the environment. Are there any other questions or comments on so-called useless organs?
No, sir.
Okay, now I'm going to give you your final test for the trimester next week. Next week in class time, and it will be based on this lesson, lesson 15, do so-called useless organs prove that evolution has taken place? So the test will be for next week, the week after that, and for the rest of the trimester, we will be reviewing lessons 11 to 15 in preparation for the final exam. Okay, so after the test next week, the remaining classes will be review of what we have covered since the start of the trimester. Any further comments or questions?